Hey folks, Scott here again. I'm in my shop and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work on this Stihl 024 that I picked up on eBay from a guy in Michigan who claims that he got it at an estate sale, and then I picked it up for a really good price and the shipping was very reasonable, so I had him ship it here. Has good compression. As you can tell, I checked the spark. The spark is good in it. I cranked it up and it runs a little rough. It wants to bog down, so I thought, well, maybe it's the muffler. Sometimes the screens in those mufflers will get clogged up. This muffler has no screen, as I discovered, and the muffler doesn't look bad. So I'm going to be installing a new fuel system, which includes a carburetor and the fuel lines, a new spark plug, a new fuel filter, and a new air breather, air filter. Just a little bit about why I like these saws. I have an 034 that I picked up as well. They're old saws. I like the newer ones, unless you get a professional grade. They have metal cases to them. They don't have plastic ones. Now that doesn't mean there are no plastic parts on them. There are. But what I really like about them is, especially when you can find these, because there aren't too many around anymore, is when you find one that's made in West Germany. West Germany, of course, doesn't exist anymore. So these are older saws, probably from the 1980s. But I'm going to tear into it and replace the fuel system and see if that makes a difference in its running. Go ahead and start taking off the components. This allows me to be able to get in here. Hopefully you can see that. To get this grommet that goes into the jug here, from the carburetor to the jug. I need to get that out and replace that. So I had to take this housing off, the full cord housing, which of course covers the flywheel. Get this gas line out. I think the easiest way is to pop it through. See if that works. Done it before that way. There it goes. There's the old filter. There's the old gas line. See that? They're in really bad shape. Decided I'm going to try to go up through the tank to get this on. That way I can stick the filter on where it goes, go right into the tank. And to get this grommet to pop into place, I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on it to make that happen. So I've run some fishing line through and attached it to this piece that I'm going to try to pull through, and hopefully we'll be able to pop this into place when I do that. However, beforehand I want to make sure I put the new filter on. It took a little doing, but I finally got it in there. See, it's intact in place, and the filter's in there on the other end, and I could look up under there and see that everything was properly in place. So that's two ways to clean a carburetor, at least two ways that I know of. One is to get some of this carburetor cleaner and spray it thoroughly through the carburetor, going into each little crevice and hole, and to clean it out that way. Of course, it makes a big mess, and you should probably wear some protective gloves and some eye protection too, because one thing that can happen is when you're spraying into one of these little holes, it can squirt back out at you and hit you in the eye, and that is an unpleasant experience to have. The other way is to use an ultrasonic cleanser, which basically you put the carburetor in here, and then you fill it up with some warm soapy water. Soapy water, I think there's a song like that. Anyway, you put some soapy water in there, and you put the carburetor in there, and you let it cycle through. Afterwards, you take it out, rinse it off, and blow it off with a pressured air, which I'll show you how I do that. Clean this bad boy. You can see I got that thing in there. I'm pouring the soapy water in. Whoa! Try not to spill it. Let's get above that thing. Turn it on and let it do its magic. It's going to clean that carburetor up. We'll let it cycle through and see what happens. And gasket are installed. Let's give you a better view of what I am getting at. You can see this grommet here. Somebody used a zip tie to put this on, so I'm going to have to cut that off and then pop all this off, after which I will have to try to figure out how to get this in, which shouldn't be too hard. But there's a better view of it from this angle. Okay, as you can see, I've put the fuel line in. You can see that right there. Went in through the tank. See if you can, I don't know if you can see that in there. But connected the filter to the line, fed it through here into the tank, and then I use these needle nose pliers to work this piece up through this hole in here. And once I got it through there, it came up, had a little bit of oil right on that little grommet there. Was able to snap it into place fairly easily. So there you have it on that. Now I'm also replacing a couple other things. I'm going to take this grommet off here, replace it with a new one. I don't know how long these parts have been on there. My guess is that they're the original parts, so they need to be replaced. I'm also going to replace the impulse line, impulse hose. Here's the excuse me, here's the original one. I'm pretty sure this was the original one. It has some stress marks on it here, indentation. Picked up a new one. It's about $7 for this, and it's going to go, oops, it's going to go in here, go through here, and it will connect onto the other end, will connect onto that, going into the motor, into the case, I mean. And so I'm going to put that in now. Put a little bit of oil on this so it'll slide into place. Okay, with a little bit of help from this screwdriver, I was able to pop this through. This impulse line is now sticking out of this other end. So the lubricant and the screwdriver enabled me to finally pop it through. It took a little effort, but it's done off. So I'm just popping the boot off like so. This is a good opportunity to take a look at the piston and make sure the piston looks good. You might not be able to see this, but it looks like that piston is clean looking. It doesn't have any. What I decided to do instead was to put the intake boot on first here, and then I'll put the handle back on and guide the boot into place, as well as the impulse line into where it goes. I'm going to do that as I slide these pieces back together. The impulse line back onto its proper place. Boot onto piston, the jug, I should say. Voila. There it is, snapped back into place. You can see that. To get up close, you can see the boot in place. I'm going to go ahead and screw everything back together, which basically is putting the screws back into here and the caps back on. Okay, I believe I have the right screws for this, so I'm going to try to get these back in place. I'm going to wipe these off. These are a little bit dirty. They get dirty again the first time I use a saw, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. Not sure if that's the right screw. As you can see, I'm using a new zip tie to hold the intake boot in place. Let's cut off the excess. We put the coil back in. I'm using one of my business cards to help guide the installment of the coil. It will help us line up this correctly. That looks pretty good. You can see the coil is in. A couple other pieces at the top here that need to go back in to place as well. Now, going for the carburetor. This has to go into the impulse line as it slides in. So I've got to make sure the fuel line is over here. Fuel line in now, like so. It's nice and snug in there. I want to hook up the linkage. The linkage is in place, as you can see. Now just the bar, which we'll give it a try.